I was going to go ahead and build some other characters from Smash Bros, but then they announced the new Mega Man, and I got a little hyped, so I wanted to build him in D&D. And he still counts as a Smash character, so it works either way. Let's start with the species. Even though he looks like a boy wearing a bunch of robot armor, he's actually a robot with a human boy face. So we're going to go with the updated Warforged. This gives us the feature, Constructed Resilience. So you have resistance to poison damage, and you have advantage on saving throws to avoid or end the poison condition. You get Sentry's Rest, so you don't actually need sleep, and magic can't put you to sleep. And then on top of that, you can finish a long rest in 6 hours. But during those 6 hours, you have to be in an inactive, motionless state. During that time, you appear inert, but you actually remain conscious. You get the feature Specialized Design, so you get 1 skill proficiency, and we're going to go with Athletics. You get the feature Tireless, so you don't gain levels of exhaustion from dehydration, malnutrition, or suffocation. And most importantly, you get Integrated Protection, giving you a default +1 bonus to your armor class. But on top of that, any armor you have donned can't be removed against your will while you're alive. Then, choosing a background, Dr. Light made you to be a force for good and partially fight Dr. Wily. So I'm going to dive into the Faerun book and grab the background Emerald Enclave Caretaker. As a caretaker with the Emerald Enclave, you can take care of those who care for the world, and that feels very fitting for a character like Mega Man. This gives us skill proficiencies in nature and survival. It boosts some of the stats that we want boosted when we decide on our class and everything, but it also gives us Emerald Enclave Fledgling, and this feat is going to work on 2 different levels. First, it gives us Speak with Animals, so you always have Speak with Animals prepared, and you can cast it with any spell slots you have, but you can also just as easily cast it as a ritual, not using a spell slot, and when you cast it as a ritual, thanks to this feat, the duration is 8 hours. So if you're trying to communicate to a robot dog, it's very easy to do. But also, because Mega Man appears in Capcom vs. Marvel, and one of the fundamental mechanics in that fighting game is that you can swap out your playable fighter, it's especially fitting with the Emerald Enclave Fledgling's feature. So when you take the help action, you can switch places with a willing ally within 5 feet of yourself as part of the same action. This movement doesn't provoke opportunity attacks, and you can't use this benefit if the ally is incapacitated. But it's a great way to swap places with an ally, which is very spot on for Marvel vs. Capcom. Then when it comes to the class, I was waiting to build Mega Man for this class to get an update. And it just so happened that Mega Man also got an update and got a big announcement, so it works on multiple levels. So we're going to be diving into the Artificer. We get 2 skill proficiencies. We're going to grab Investigation and Perception, and Artificers are all about technology, building magical objects, and incorporating them into their own use. And throughout most of the Mega Man games, you find ways to upgrade your equipment, your armor, your buster cannon, everything. So this is going to be super fitting. This will also give us proficiency with light and medium armor, shields, and simple weapons. We're mostly just going to be focusing on medium armor, and then we'll sort out the rest soon. Then at first level of Artificer, you get some spell casting. As far as the cantrips, I'm just going to run through all the ones that we want to grab throughout this build. And we obviously want Firebolt because we need things to blast out of our buster cannon. And we can't just shoot lemons. And if you know that reference, you are an OG fan of YouTube. But there's plenty of times where Mega Man uses different types of elements for the blast. So we'll also grab Ray of Frost to cover that. And to have those little needle things that pop out of your hands and shock people, we'll grab Shocking Grasp. Then to have some sort of defensive option like the leaves that surround you and shield you, we'll grab Resistance. On the similar aspect to that, we'll also grab the first level spell, Absorb Elements, allowing you to absorb elemental damage and dish it back out to an enemy. We want a quick way to heal ourselves with the spell Cure Wounds, and then because it's always great to improve your accuracy, grab Fairy Fire. It targets a large group of enemies, and it highlights them, giving you advantage on attacks against them. Then for the general platforming nature of most Mega Man games, grab Jump for some extra jumping ability, and Long Strider to run 10 feet faster. Also at first level of Artificer, you get Tinker's Magic. So you get some proficiency with Tinker's tools and you can create some stuff. But then at second level of Artificer, you get the feature Replicate Magic Item. So you can actually create magical items in Dungeons & Dragons. Now the best way to change this into very specifically Mega Man stuff is by keeping it pretty simple. Since we're focusing mostly on the buster for our attacks, we want to grab the Wand of the War Mage. This will give us a +1 bonus to our attack rolls with any of our spells. And on top of that, you can ignore half cover when making a spell attack roll. We'll actually be able to upgrade this Wand of the War Mage as we level up in Artificer. Then, because Warforged don't actually get default dark vision in Dungeons & Dragons, we'll also grab the Goggles of Night. This gives us dark vision, and since there's plenty of times I see Mega Man's eyes light up, it feels fitting. There's plenty of other magical items you can create at this level, but we're going to save those because we're going to swap out most of them as we level up anyways. Then at 3rd level of Artificer, we get to choose an Artificer subclass. And I was very tempted to go with Armor because there's plenty of times Mega Man gets upgrades to his armor. I mean, in Mega Man X, by itself, you can get the leg upgrade for a dashing ability, a helmet upgrade for headbutt, body upgrade for armor, and a buster upgrade for supercharging, not to mention the Hadouken. But most of these we're going to be able to replicate with various spells. And the other default options we already get from being able to replicate magic items is going to have us mostly covered. And I really want to focus on that Buster Cannon. And most of the upgrades you get from defeating various enemies come with variations of your Buster Cannon ability. So hammering in on this as much as possible, we're going to go with the Artillerist for our subclass. This gives us the feature Tools of the Trade, so you gain proficiency with martial ranged weapons, you get tool proficiency with woodcarver's tools, and you get the feature Wand Crafting. So when you craft a magic wand, the amount of time required to craft it is halved. But very importantly, you also get Artillerist spells. These are spells that are default added to your spell list without taking up any of your known spells. And at level 3, we get Shield, which is another way you can have that leaf shield from Mega Man, and we get Thunder Wave, allowing us to blast enemies and push them away from us. Then we get one of the most important features from both being an Artillerist in the updated Artificer from D&D, as well as just being Mega Man in general, and that's the Eldritch Cannon. So you can use your Smith's tools or Woodcarver's tools to take a magic action to create a small or tiny Eldritch Cannon. This is just a small magical object. If it's small, you can set it up like a turret, but if it's tiny, you can actually hang on to it just like it's your Buster Cannon. By default, it has its own armor class of 18 and a number of hit points equal to 5 times your Artificer level. You can actually heal it by casting Mending, restoring an extra 2d6 hit points to it. It has immunity to poison and psychic damage, and you can activate this cannon as a bonus action, meaning that you can use your action for just a basic firebolt cantrip, and then you can activate this cannon as your bonus action for a whole bunch of extra awesome effects. You get 3 options for what you want to use for its activation. You can use it as a flamethrower, so the cannon can blast fire in a 15-foot cone, forcing enemies to make a dex save and taking 2d8 fire damage on a failed save or half as much on a successful one. You can also just use it for the basic blaster attack with Force Ballista, so you can make a ranged spell attack, dealing 2d8 force damage and possibly pushing an enemy 5 feet away from you. Or the last option is a bit more defensive, with Protector, emitting a burst of positive energy that gives each creature of your choice within 10 feet of the cannon temporary hit points equal to 1d8 plus your intelligence modifier. And speaking of that intelligence modifier, at 4th level, we get an ability score improvement. So here's our starting ability scores. We're pretty well rounded, but we need intelligence because that's the most important thing for being an Artificer. We got a decent amount of dex just to make sure we have as much armor class as possible while wearing medium armor. Then obviously we need Constitution for the health. But at this level, we get an ability score improvement, so we're going to go ahead and throw 2 points into intelligence. At 5th level, we get an upgrade to our spellcasting, getting access to 2nd level spells. As an Artillerist, we get Scorching Ray, allowing us to blast out a whole bunch of fiery rays of fire-based damage, and then Shatter for a quick AoE burst of thunderous damage. When it comes to spells we actually want to choose, we'll grab Dragon's Breath, so you have a wide array of elemental damage you can dish out in a cone. Heat Metal, just because then you can heat up an enemy's armor and forcing them to take non-stop damage is just generally amazing. We can also grab Homunculus Servant, so that we can get a little robot to help you out. And just to cover all of our bases, there are certain upgrades that Mega Man gets where you can change what his hands are, swapping them out. And the best way to replicate this is with the spell Alter Self. This can give you things like aquatic adaptation, so you can get a swim speed, you can change your appearance in certain ways, but most importantly, you can have natural weapons. So you can grow claws, fangs, horns, or hooves, or anything you can reasonably justify. And then when you make an unarmed strike to deal damage with your newly grown weapon, it deals 1d6 damage, and you can use your spellcasting modifier for the attack and damage rolls. But also at 5th level of Artificer, thanks to being an Artillerist, you get Arcane Firearm. So when you finish a long rest, you can use your woodcarver's tools to carve into any rod, staff, or wand, or even a martial ranged weapon, and it turns it into your arcane firearm. Doing this means that it's a little easier to hang on to your arcane firearm, but it also gives a benefit because you can use your arcane firearm as your spellcasting focus for your Artificer spells. And when you cast an Artificer spell through the firearm, it gets an extra 1d8 damage, which you can add to one of the spell's damage rolls. So that means at this level alone, just with a basic firebolt, which usually does 1d10 of damage. At 5th level, by default, the cantrip jumps to 2d10. Now it's 2d10 plus 1d8. Then you also have your Eldritch Cannon, which you can activate as your bonus action, doing an extra 2d8 fire damage in a cone, doing an AoE to multiple enemies, or just as straight up 2d8 force damage instead. So you're dealing 3d8 plus 2d10 just at level 5 without spending a single spell slot. At 6th level of Artificer, you get to choose some new magic items. So to make sure we get some more rapid fire blasting, we're going to grab the Wand of Magic Missiles. This allows you to cast Magic Missile, which is automatically going to hit enemies and just be able to turn it into more of a machine gun, rapid fire kind of thing. But we also want to make sure our armor is getting upgraded as we go along as well. So we're going to grab just a basic +1 to our armor. Also at level 6 of being an Artificer, you get Magic Item Tinker. So as a bonus action, you can touch a magic item within 5 feet of yourself that you created with the Replicate Magic Item feature, and you can recharge certain charges in those items. Like the Wand of Magic Missiles does use charges, but now you can expend spell slots to recharge it. You can also use it in reverse, destroying a replicated magic item and gaining some spell slots in return. The last thing you can do with this feature is turning one magic item into a different replicated magic item if you really want to. Then at 7th level of Artificer, you get access to Flash of Genius. So when you or a creature within 30 feet of you fails an ability check or a saving throw, you can use your reaction to add your intelligence modifier to the roll. You can use this reaction a number of times equal to your intelligence modifier, but getting that big of a boost to any saving throw or ability check is pretty massive. And that'll go even further because at 8th level, you get another ability score improvement, so throw 2 more points into intelligence, maxing it out. 9th level of Artificer gives you access to 3rd level spells. So we need a massive blast or even a Hadouken with Fireball, because Fireball does a ton of damage in a massive AoE, or you have a defensive option with Wind Wall, both of which are added thanks to your Artillerist spells. And when it comes to spells, you can actually choose. You probably just want to grab Fly. You can usually ride Rush around and fly on him, so having the Fly spell at your disposal is pretty helpful. But then on top of that, thanks to being an Artillerist, you get Explosive Cannon. So when your cannon takes damage, you can actually take a reaction to command the cannon to detonate. Doing so destroys the cannon, but it forces every creature within 20 feet of that cannon to make a dex save. Otherwise, they take 3d10 force damage, or half as much if they still save. You can technically probably use this as almost like a grenade. You throw the cannon, let it take some damage, and it blows up. But if you don't want to just destroy your cannons, you also get the other feature from Explosive Cannon called Firepower. So the cannon's damage rolls and the number of temporary hit points granted by the Protector feature increase by 1d8. So now the Flamethrower and the Force Ballista are doing 3d8, and you get some extra temp HP if you use the more defensive option. 10th level of Artificer gives you Magic Item Adept, so you can actually attune to up to 4 magic items at the same time now. Also at 10th level, you get access to a few more replicated magic items. We're going to upgrade your Wand of the War Mage to a +2. Then to focus in on that platforming nature again, we're going to grab the Ring of Jumping, really helping our jumping capability, and the Ring of Feather Falling, so that way you don't take fall damage. 11th level gives you spell storing items, so you can store a 1st, 2nd, or 3rd level Artificer spell that has a casting time of an action, and doesn't require material components. You can give it to somebody else to use it to cast one of your spells using your spellcasting modifier, but whoever's actually doing the casting requires them to do the concentration if it's a spell that requires concentration. This spell stays in the object until it's used a number of times equal to twice your intelligence modifier, or until you use this feature again to store the spell in the object. But this means if you want to use one of the most iconic spells in D&D, Fireball, over and over again, you can. You basically have 5 castings of Fireball without using a spell slot. Then at 12th level of Artificer, you get another ability score improvement. So let's go ahead and boost up our Constitution by 2 points, just to help out our health a bit. 13th level of Artificer gives us access to 4th level spells, and as an Artillerist, this gives us Ice Storm, just raining down icy damage, and Wall of Fire, which is pretty accurate to the name. It just creates a wall of fire that can damage enemies. When it comes to spells that you actually want to choose, there are 2 spells that I think work pretty well that are both used to summon your robot dog companion Rush to your side. The first is Mordenkainen's Faithful Hound. The Hound can bite an enemy, dealing up to 4d8 force damage. Not to mention, it's just generally good to have a dog around. Or you can focus on the more robot nature of him and go with Summon Construct. Constructs are pretty awesome. They have decent amount of armor class, a decent amount of health, and they have a whole bunch of resistances and can do a whole bunch of damage. 14th level of being an Artificer gives you Advanced Artifice. So you get the features Magic Item Savant, allowing you to attune to up to 5 magic items at a time, and Refreshed Genius. So when you finish a short rest, you can regain 1 expended use of your Flash of Genius feature. Also at 14th level, you get to choose some more replicate magic items, and we're going to upgrade our magical armor from a +1 to a +2, and to boost up that even more, we're going to grab the Ring of Protection. This gives us another +1 bonus to our armor class, but it also adds a +1 bonus to all of our saving throws. 15th level of Artificer, thanks to being an Artillerist, gives you Fortified Position, which is kind of the pinnacle of your Buster Cannon. First, it boosts up your general armor and everything defensive, giving you and your allies half cover as long as they're within 10 feet of your Eldritch Cannon. And half cover is pretty amazing because it gives you +2 bonus to your armor class and dexterity saving throws. And just a default +2 bonus to armor is amazing, and just having a +2 bonus to your dex saves as well is even better. And this is something you don't need to cast, concentrate on, or anything like that. It's just in existence whenever your Eldritch Cannon is active. But speaking of that Eldritch Cannon, you also get the feature Double Firepower. So you can now have 2 cannons at the same time, and you can create both of them with the same magic action. So you can double fire it, massively boosting your rapid fire capabilities. And if you're wielding a tiny cannon, you can just throw it in the other hand while you have your Wand of the War Mage in your main hand, which has already gotten turned into your arcane firearm. So you can now cast Firebolt, and then as your bonus action, let out a whole bunch of blasts, dealing 3d8 damage with each blast, so that means 6d8 damage just as your bonus action. Then at 16th level of Artificer, we get another ability score improvement. So let's go ahead and throw 2 more points into Constitution, maxing out the amount of health we can get. 17th level of Artificer finally gives us access to 5th level spells. As an Artillerist, we get some big damaging spell with Cone of Cold, really blasting out a cone of cold damage, as the name would imply, and we get one of the best defensive options with Wall of Force. It's an impenetrable wall. It's absolutely amazing, and can kind of break encounters if you use it right. But as far as 5th level spells, there's a lot of times you're shooting random projectiles at enemies, and to cover this, we're going to grab Animate Objects. To get another defensive option and raise up a big barrier, grab Wall of Stone. And then to fire out your own hand at somebody if you wanted to, grab Bigby's Hand. This can also apply to Master Hand from Smash Bros, but that's only if you want to have that incorporated into the build as well. Then at 18th level of Artificer, you get Magic Item Master. So you can now attune to up to 6 magic items at the same time, while everybody else is just stuck at 3. 19th level gives us an epic boon we can choose. And because Artificers are half casters, meaning they max out at 5th level spellcasting, I think one of the most beneficial epic boons you can grab is the boon of Spell Recall, because this gives us the feature Free Casting. So whenever you cast a spell of 1st through 4th level, you can roll a d4. And if the number you roll is the same as the spell slot you used, you get that casting for free, meaning that anytime you're not using your 5th level spell slot, you have a 25% chance to cast the spell for free. Then at 20th level of Artificer, you get the feature Soul of Artifice, granting you magical guidance, so when you finish a short rest, you regain all expended uses of your Flash of Genius, as long as you have attunement to at least one magic item. But more importantly, you get Cheat Death, basically giving you an extra life. So if you are reduced to 0 hit points but not killed outright, you can disintegrate one of your uncommon or rare magic items, as long as it's something that you created with your Replicate Magic Item feature. If you do so, your hit points instead change to a number equal to 20 times the number of magic items disintegrated. That brings you to max level in Dungeons & Dragons. And frankly, I'm absolutely hyped that Mega Man is coming back, and I can't wait to play him again. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, let me know by hitting that like button. And if you want access to the character sheet for this build or any of my other builds, feel free to check out my Patreon, linked in the comments and description down below. And if you made it to the very end, I hope that you roll at least 3 nat 20s in your next D&D session, especially if you want to play as a robot boy with a buster cannon for an arm, playing as Mega Man in your next Dungeons & Dragons session. Also, YouTube thinks you might like this video of mine. It's apparently suggested by the algorithm. And if you want to play as a robot kid, maybe you want to believe in the algorithm choosing something you might actually like. So feel free to check it out.